Welcome back. We're talking about the political challenges facing South African President Jacob Zuma. Let's get back to our panel. Sipho, let me start with you this time. Of course, there is a legal case to be made against the president of South Africa, but there is also a moral one. There is a political one as well. And I want to read to you something that the former Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Cheryl Carolus, said on a South African radio station just a few days ago. She said, having sex with a child who grew up in front of him was supposedly an error of judgment. His friendship with various people who went to prison was an error of judgment. Nkandla was an error of judgment. Nkandla is the name of the residence where these improvements were made. And she went on to say that we should not default to such undignified behavior. Let's get some integrity back into the game. That is quite a statement, Sipho, coming from a very senior member of the ANC, the ruling party, President Zuma's party.
No, that's correct. But also, you must also factor that there are also many members who were senior in the ANC and who are senior in the ANC who support the president. What we need to accept here is that there are people who are opposed to the president and there are people who are not opposed to the president. What ultimately matters in politics is what are the numbers? Is the president, does he still enjoy the support of majority or not? What you often find is that you'll find in the media there'll be mention of individuals, but at the same time, you'll also see the same media covering the president going to stadiums that are filled to capacity, where the people who are there show a lot of support. Ultimately, what the ANC will determine is to what extent is there a political cost to this. But what cannot be gainsaid is that there has been a political cost. But how far has that cost been? But to then assume that the president has lost support, it's something that some of us simply express as wishes. But we do not have the numbers on the ground. But the numbers that we see, and at least what I see, are individuals of stature coming out. But I also see thousands of people who rally behind the president.
Right.
Even when it comes to provinces, you have a province like Gauteng, which has taken a position, but you also have other provinces that they're taking exactly the opposite position. So this is a contestation, and we must accept it. And also, in the best of times, the ANC is never united.
Right.
It is made of a number of factions. So at any one time, there'll be disagreements.
Okay. Mzwanele, about the ANC being united, there we heard from Sipho telling us that there are elements within the party that support the president. There are elements that oppose the president. Is the ANC a divided party? Has unity been lost?
No, ANC is a very democratic party. It's a very democratic organization. What happens in the ANC, there are always robust engagements and robust debates. Now, people almost confuse these robust engagements with debates as divisions. And just to show that the ANC is united, that when there's robust engagements, that does not mean it's divisions. The opposition party mistakes that for division. And although they are just a paltry party of some 22% party, but they have the energy to come and want to stage a vote in parliament because they believe in their own propaganda that the ANC is so divided that members of the ANC are going to vote with them. And every time they get defeated with the understanding of divisions which are imaginary. Okay. Lastly, I think it's disingenuous for Mr. Steenhuisen to say that Section 89 is applicable. The court would have said so if that was the case. The Section 172 compels the court to pronounce as such. Absence of that in the judgment is very, 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 very fundamental. The president of this country is a constitutional being. Yep. Every step of the way is constitutional. It can't be that every mistake is fatal. This is why you've got Section 89. The other things the other remedies are there to deal with other mistakes. But if a mistake is fatal, the court will declare Section 89. It will still not instruct Parliament. It will declare that this section has not been complied with, and then Parliament will vote on their consciences on that basis. It will not instruct them, but it will declare that it's not been complied with.
Okay,
so it mustn't be disingenuous here.
All right, I want to move on now. John, after that Constitutional Court ruled unanimously against President Zuma, he spoke to the South African people. Let's take a listen to some of what he had to say.
I wish to emphasize that I never knowingly or deliberately set out to violate the Constitution. The intention was not in pursuit of corrupt ends or to use state resources to unduly benefit me and my family. With hindsight, there are many matters that could have been handled differently, which we deeply regret.
So, John, the President of South Africa, they're saying that he deeply regrets what happened. He's very sorry. Is that acceptable?
Well, it's not acceptable because he hasn't made a fulsome apology to the people of South Africa. As I said, if you listen on to the clip, he goes on to apologize for, quote, the misunderstanding, quote, confusion was created around this issue. He was the architect of that misunderstanding and the architect of that confusion. This is a man who's had 246 million rand of South African public money spent on his private residence for the installation of items like swimming pools, air conditioning, cattle kraals, and a whole host of other luxurious add-ons. That is not the behavior of someone who's charged with constitutional obligations to govern according to the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. The Constitutional Court was explicit. No matter what Mr. Manyi says or how he tries to spin it, that the President failed to uphold the Constitution and acted in an unlawful manner. You can't get away from that. And, you know, frankly, Mr. Manyi is also confused. We didn't bring the motion of impeachment against the President expecting the ANC to vote against their President. We brought it precisely because we wanted to show South Africa that the African National Congress puts their loyalty to President Zuma above the Constitution and above the people that sent them there. That was the reason that the motion was brought to the floor. We knew that the African National Congress members of Parliament don't have the guts because of the political system in South Africa to actually make a stand according to their real conscience. I know that there are a number of my colleagues in Parliament on the other side of the aisle that abhor what the President has done and are revolted by the excesses of his administration. Yet they are afraid to lose their seats because of the system in South Africa and didn't dare vote against the African National Congress. It's also worth noting that in that morning caucus of the African National Congress, ANC MPs were warned that if they voted against the President, they would lose their seats in Parliament. This isn't the behavior of a party that's assured of massive support internally and a cohesive unit inside the African National Congress. It's a behavior of a party that's terrified to allow their members a free vote on the matter because they know what could happen.
Right, Sipho, I've just got a few seconds left. The ANC will be tested at the ballot box in August. The President has announced that local elections will take place in South Africa on August the 3rd. This is going to be the first electoral test. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think what is going to happen is that the ANC is going to go out and try to talk to the people and explain themselves. But what is most important is even if the President were to be found to be guilty and has been found guilty and the people were to agree that he's guilty, what determines the vote is not one incident. What they look at is a compendium of issues, whether the ANC is still a party that carries their aspiration and their hopes. And that is what is going to determine how they're going to vote. And most importantly, if you look on the ground, when people go on protest, you don't see them protesting against the President. They protest against the failure or on the failure of the government to deliver services. We have had a number of protests, about 1,000 protests or more than that.
Okay.
But the issue has always been about what's in it for them. It has not been about Jacob Zuma. And I think the ANC will try to emphasize that aspect, to say we are still the custodian of your aspirations and your hopes.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks to all of you for joining us.